everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to use yarn, spare bits of scrap yarn, as a stitch marker and how to make sure you're working to the right stitch count and where to look and so on and so forth. So a bit of a beginning video. So imagine this is obviously going to be when we're working in the round and we're not joining the round at the end. So basically working in like a sort of snail spiral that just naturally gets bigger and you're not joining the end of the round or chaining at the beginning of the round. So let's just imagine that we've worked our first round. So we're going to do this as if we're doing some chains. Let's just imagine, let's do 5 chains, then we're going to slip stitch in our first chain to form a loop, and then we're just going to work some double crochets into our loop that we've just created as a sample piece. So I'm going to work about 8 double crochets just for our example. Our fictitious pattern. And 8. Okay, so I've worked 8 double crochet into a loop, however you've made your loop. This is just an example piece, and I'm not going to join this round at all. I mean, sometimes at the beginning of even if I work in spirals on my patterns, I tend to just join this very first round. But for argument's sake, I'm not going to join. I'm just going to stop there because we want to create a sort of snail. You can see the beginning of it there, like a shell style. So that we don't have to count our stitches as we go, because we're all familiar with those many a times where we're counting away in our heads and we got to about 189 and then somebody decides to have a conversation with you, and however hard you try you probably lose count. So, and of course you can buy proper stitch markers, but I actually have never bought one because I don't feel the need to buy one, because you can just use a piece of scrap yarn. Now, it's good to choose a colour that's obviously a different colour to the yarn you're using. And all we're doing is, so this is the end of our first round, as it were, and this is the loop that we're working with. So before we go on to do any stitches on our second round, we're just going to tie a piece of brightly coloured yarn, a piece of scrap yarn, so a nice bright colour. I'm just going to gently tie it onto our loop, and you want to make sure it's quite loose so it's easy to get off. And I'm just going to work it down to the front of our loop. So when we put our hook back in, tighten it up. It's just to the front of our project there. So then what we want to do is we want to go and work our next stitches on our next round, and my fictitious pattern can be asking us to do 2 double crochet in each stitch round, which is what you do to double up basically. So we're going to go from 8 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to double up to 16, so 8 plus 8. So we're going to go straight into the next stitch with a double crochet, and we're going to do 2 double crochet in each stitch around for our fictitious spiral. So we've done 2 double crochet in there, and then we're going to do 2 double crochet in each stitch around. I'm not going to bother counting. Which can be sometimes quite good if you want to just crochet and not have to think and just watch telly or something. I'm just working 2 double crochet in each stitch around, but I'm not counting because my stitch count is going to tell me where I've started and where I need to finish. So as long as I'm making sure to do my 2 double crochet in each stitch around, I should be okay. So let's say I get to about here. It's looking a little something like that. Now I know I'm not back at the beginning yet because my stitch count, my stitch marker is here. But where do we start counting from? I hear you cry. Well, our very first stitch is the stitch that our piece of yarn is tied to. So there we go, you can see it's tied onto this stitch here. It's not on this one or this one, or it's on this one here. So this is our very first stitch. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've done 12, and I know I need to do 16, so I can keep going. So how many have I done now? I've done 2 more. So again, if we go back, I know my first stitch is a stitch my marker is tied to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I've done 14, and I know I need 16, so I know that the very last stitch is going to be here. I need to do 2 in there, which I know is going to equal 16. So there we go. So if I just bring that up, you can see that my first stitch is where my stitch marker is tied to, that one there. And also we know then that our last stitch is going to be the stitch that's just to the right of our stitch marker. There we go. Sorry about the background noise. So there we go. So that's how to use a piece of brightly coloured yarn as a stitch marker, so you don't have to count. So there we go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 is where our little loop. And again, we just do the same for the next round. So there we go. You can see we're working in a continuous spiral. And then we do the same. So before we do any stitches for our third round, we again tie our piece of brightly coloured yarn. Can get a bit sort of scrappy after a while when you've used this scrap piece of yarn a few times, but gently tie it, don't tie it too tight, otherwise it'll be really hard to get off. And then just place it to the front, and then tighten your loop, and then we can work our next stitches, going straight into the next stitch. And this time the pattern asked us, our fictitious pattern asked us to do 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 double crochet for an increase. But we know that our very first stitch is the one that it's tied to, so this one here. So we know we've done 1, 2, 3, and we know that our last stitch to work into is going to be the stitch just to the right of the stitch that's got the marker on. So it's going to be this one here, it's going to be our last stitch. Okay, so I hope that's helped. I hope that's helped some people, and yeah, I'm going to be using this yarn any second now to do a square and a square granny square, which is going to be my next pattern. So I shall see you soon for some more crochet fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.